laws, please
is a
get them.
no-no.
Talish Ray, would you like to respond to Brinda Adige? She says men need special laws, please get them. At the same time, she's asking about the role of the advocates, the lawyers in this particular case, because if they are the ones facilitating the misuse in the first place, should there be no action against them?
So I want to take a bit of a overview on this in terms of the fact that in terms of the misuse of the laws as well as the procedural elements and the lacunas that are there as well. So as much as all stakeholders need to be held accountable for this rather tragic incident that has taken place and the outcry that is there, as well as looking at the distress of the family which has obviously lost a young man in its prime, there are three specific issues I'd like to focus on. One, so far as the lawyers go, yes, we are officers of the court. We have a duty towards the court to be able to bring to light what is the truth. And in this case, as we looked at I have parts of his suicide note that has been analyzed. If you look at it, he's talking about how repeatedly the other side, which is his estranged wife, went in claiming that she had no knowledge of these cases being filed, which is rather surprising. Also, what is surprising is that the other stakeholders in terms of online courts being facilitated where parties cannot reach in person because of the distance that is there, and those were not entertained so far as the note itself claims. But the third and the very critical aspect so far as I'm concerned is that which comes up immediately if you look at the note, which is that of parental alienation. And I have been talking about this in terms of how unfair it is, how cruel it is to both parents, either of the parents that have been deprived of the company of their children, but also the impact that has been repeatedly pointed out by experts in terms of parental alienation being child abuse. And this is very highlighted in this case where he talks about how he wanted access to his child. And the very access was weaponized in terms of the fact that if you are not going to pay, I will not allow you access to your child. That itself being allowed to go on for a number of years is something that is very shameful and completely against the letter and the spirit of the law. Therefore, there are these procedural lacunas that are there, which have been exploited time and again because of the very nature of this institution of marriage. And those are the gaps that need to be urgently addressed in terms of what are the responsibilities of each parties where vis-a-vis maintenance is concerned. We have a plethora of laws, but we do not have something which is substantive, which says this is the percentage in which it is going to go, or this is how much it should be, should somebody's salary be this limit to this limit. We can do that for taxation.
Well, perhaps there's need for better codification of some of the aspects that you spoke about, but let me bring in
Absolutely, as well as bringing it up to date.
Yes, bringing it up to date. And of course, this we certainly hope this entire episode is a huge wake-up call in that regard. But Amit Deshpande, at the end of the day, there is a problem. We have laws such as the Dowry Act, etc., because there are huge number of women who still face these problems. Dowry deaths in this country were about 6,500 odd last year, and that's a significant number. How do we bring in these safeguards while, ensuring that the law and the purpose for which it was first brought in the first place is not defeated at the same time?
Okay, thank you so much for having me on this program. First, I'll just begin with one aspect. When we are talking about dowry deaths, we are having the number of 6,500 women committing suicide every year, and being registered under dowry death. But if we study the suicide data of our country, I have studied the past 50 years data, and we had released it during World Suicide Prevention Day. What we find is that about 90,000 married men commit suicide every year in India, okay, compared to 30,000 married women committing suicide. And the interesting aspect is when we think about men committing suicide, we feel that it could be because of any issues related to economy or their job. But 24% of men commit suicide because of family issues. Okay, and 23% commit suicide because of illnesses. So half of the chunk of men committing suicide is absolutely avoidable in terms of basic things. It's not economical. I would mean what I mean to say is, when there is a big chunk of men, about 20,000 men committing suicide because of family issues, are we even focusing on that in that direction? That is the first aspect I would say. We are not touching any laws or anything. But if you're talking about gender neutrality in every sense, why not extend the same laws to men as well? If the laws are so good, the misuse of the laws is not an issue, then why don't we just make it, instead of gendered terminology, we can use non-gendered terminology, like instead of husband or wife, we can make it a spouse. If a man, faces domestic violence today in India, there is no way that he can expect any kind of justice because there is no law. In this particular case also, if you go through Subhash's, Atul Subhash's whole statement, his wife was continuously asking money from him, and when he could not give that, then she left.
Yes, his allegation is that he was asked first to settle for 1 crore, then the demand went up to 3 crores. Certainly a lot of very disturbing aspects that many of our panelists have brought out, and we certainly hope that this sparks off a debate at least on the need for better safeguards to prevent misuse of this law as well as other laws that exist. Brinda Adige, Amit Deshpande, Talish Ray, Swapnil Srivastav, thanks so much for joining us this evening.